Good morning, all. Yeah, so I'll be briefly talking on a project which is going in CSIR. Which is basically like developing agro technologies for crop and soil and crop health. So I will be presenting like a few results, which is basically like the phenology part and biophysical parameter retrieval using aerial imaging or remote sensing data, and where like machine learning have a quite a bit of application. So we all know that so we are in a situation where our demand for food is rapidly increasing. At the same time, our like productivity, like particularly the crop productivity, is getting saturated and limited by the resources and many other aspects. So, like as per the FAO, by 2050, so we are reaching a situation where like we need double of like like the current productivity to meet the human demand. So the one solution for this to meet this requirement is make our agricultural cropping system more precise and smart. So, like for suppose when it comes to precision or like smart agriculture, of course, like where technology plays a critical role, like mm, not only like in optimally using the resources as well as making the cropping system more climate or like climate change resilient. So, like here, many technologies like remote sensing technologies, uh, like precision agriculture technologies, AML technologies, many, like a full suite of these all application like this techniques is useful in making like the crop production smart and precise. So the major challenge is that like how to develop this, because we are in a country where like not like Europe or US or like many other countries where the crop production or like farm cultivation at a larger scale. In our country, mostly these farmers or like the agricultural production, these are mostly marginal farmers in the sense that they have like mostly 1 acre or like 1 to 2 acre, maximum 3 acres of land, and they do the cultivation. So when the like so that our practices or whatever the smart agriculture or precision agriculture practices or like management practices we design, we need to go for that kind of a scale. So that is the challenging. So because in abroad and all, like mostly they in acres like 50, 100, 200 acres, where this large scale remote sensing technologies or like imaging may help us in like management practices for crop monitoring and resource optimization. But in our country, so we our like for suiting our country, so we need to make so we need to take care of this. Like we need to go at the very farm scale. So a resolution of like 1 to 2 acres of land. So that is the real challenge. So that I will be like just giving few glimpse on like what are the challenges in doing like making precision agriculture practices when it comes to very finer scale field management. Actually, basically in this project, we aim for that. So the critical components of these projects are like we need to collect the data. So we are collecting data like using the like unmanned aerial vehicle UAV images as well as so both for validating these images or making a type of model. So we need ground truth. So we do the field campaign for collecting the in situ observations. So using this, we develop like kind of like a different vegetation indices we derive for crop monitoring as well as we develop different models for like monitoring and management. So this project is basically like a consortium project where 9 CSR labs are participating, and so we are CSR 4P is a nodal lab, and we have another 8 more CSR labs are participating. So the major like work packages of like the activities in this thing like that is categorized into like 4 work packages. So 4PA is mostly contributing in the modeling and predictive image analytic part. So I am in my presentation, I have included mostly the result from the modeling or like image analytic part. I didn't include the technology part for the reason like IP reasons and because many other labs are also participated. So I didn't purposefully I didn't include the technology part in my presentation. So this is just a glimpse of like what are the activities we are doing as part of this project. So basically this has 3 major like activities. It can be categorized. One is like acquisition of data. By various means we are like data acquisition is done by putting the IoT based microclimate observations, weather stations, and UAV imaging using multispectral, hyperspectral, and lidar imaging. In addition to that, we are using the state of the art agri instruments, in situ measurements, for like for validating this data which we collect through the aerial imaging. And in addition to that, we use as proximal sensing image to uh, image the soil nutrient. So we have in the center portion, we have the modeling part where we use this data to like make few models, which is useful in crop modeling and management application. The right side, it is more kind of the technological like technology development. So that I'm not discussing that part in detail in this presentation. So when it comes to precision agriculture, so actually we have like 3 R's are very important. So when a farmer or when a like policymaker, when we speak about precision agriculture, the main our like target is right input at right time at right location. So that by though saying it is very easy, when it comes to real farming condition, so it is a really a challenge, like to deciding what is the right, uh, what is the right input, whether it is fertilizer, whether it is for like disease like pesticide management or any of those crop management practice. Deciding the right input is a challenge, and the second thing is that right time, because when it comes to crop monitoring, the time like time of intervention or time of deciding a management strategy is very critical, because um, most of the diseases the symptom like is more visible in the later stage of the disease. By that time most of the damage to the crop might have happened. So it is very important to for identify the disease or like stress early in the crop, so that the timely management can be applied. And another important aspect is the location. So as I discussed, since our like farming is mostly in the very smaller scale, like people have like very small farmlands, so we need to go for a resolution which is in meters, because like suppose we decide a management practice in district level or village level, that may not be suitable when it comes to a like particular farmland or like farmer field or like farm level management practice. So these are like important aspects to be taken care when we decide monitoring and management practices development. So, so as part of this project, so we basically like this like design management practices for the soil health management and crop disease management and crop monitoring and management. So for this, like the different type of technologies also used. So for when it comes to like suppose a climate resilient agriculture is concerned, so we need to go for a control and agriculture, like where the this crop environment is controlled, like we make it in a controlled condition, so that we will be controlling how the environmental parameter associated with the crop in an automatic way through sensors and algorithms. Coming to the nutrient management, actually in this project, so the way we decided to implement the project is like that. We have selected different farmer fields for conducting our experiments and developing models. So we have selected fields, two fields in Kerala, and in Kerala basically Kutanad region, it's for paddy crop, and we have selected a field in Nargoil again for paddy crop, and we have selected two fields in Karnataka, one is in Hospete and another is in Mandya, and we have fields in similarly in Lucknow, that is for different crops like paddy, menthol, mint, Jarbara and all. Like then we have fields in Palampur, we have fields in Jammu and Kashmir, we have fields in Ludhiana. So because we selected these fields in such a way that we have the partnering lab, so they will be like helping us in doing the day-to-day measurements, day-to-day like observation collection and all those things. So considering that only like we have selected, and also like most of these fields are selected in such a way that it belongs to different agroclimatic zones. So in that way, like whatever the technology we develop, it is not very rigid like this. It is like versatile. So we want to make it. So that's why we have like selected fields like that. So in this project, we use a like proximal sensing in like instrument. So that is based on the gamma ray spectroscopy. So it sends the like, gamma ray emission from these radioactive materials in the soil. Then that proximal imaging data is received, and then we use a kind of a, like a MLDL model to like derive soil nutrient from that the proximal image data. So for like developing and validating the model, so parallelly we are collecting soil samples like micro, macro, and macronutrients from the and as well as the physical properties of the soil. So we collect the data at regular grid intervals for developing the machine learning model. So that so by using by combining the proximal imaging and the in situ measurements, we develop a kind of a model. So based on that, we develop a soil nutrient map. So this map can be used for a variable rate fertilizer application, because in current practices, whether it is the ground based or like whether it is through UAV applicator, drone applicator. So the current practice is like that the fertilizer is applied across the field in a uniform rate, because we don't have a variable rate map of the nutrient. So in this project, we are developing a variable rate nutrient map. So that is integrated with the drone and the ground-based devices for like variable rate fertilizer application. So this is a comparison of like the map we generated based on the ML model and the in situ measurements. So here that whatever I'm showing in the color shade is basically the soil like a proximally sensed soil nutrient, and the values I showed in the graphs are the based on the in situ measurements. So few bottom parameters I showed nitrogen. So we can see that except like for example like somebody something like Singh or something, mostly the values are within the range. It is comparing well like it has a very good agreement with the laboratory analysis or like sample we collected and analyzed in the lab. So like this we have done for like validator for different project fields. So the so like we have done an average statistics also. I didn't show that like except zinc and sulfur we are getting a very good resolution, like very good correlation between the proximally sensed and laboratory analysis. So this is the methodology. Like once you have the you have the proximal sensing, then you have the lab analysis, then you have a kind of a model, then you estimate the soil nutrient, then you get the soil nutrient map, then you develop a kind of a map for the fertilizer application. So that is based on the current nutrient value in the soil and the standard recommended dose. So we use a formula to develop a variable rate fertilizer application map. For example, the map I showed in the right side is a variable rate map that is basically of 3.5 square meter grid. So here you can, the values represents the amount of potassium fertilizer like MOP, which need to be applied in the Navarcol paddy field after 20-25 days after sowing. So this is the challenge. Now this map, like we feed to the because we can see that there is a huge variability within like grid to grid. So generally in the farmer, like the normal practice is like that we apply this the nutrient, suppose for example like 30 kg, suppose like 20 kg recommendation per hectare. So we divide into this like 3.5 meter grid and we uniformly put across the field. So we can see that in that way, if we are putting, we will be like wasting a lot of we'll be putting a lot of excess fertilizer which may not be required for the paddy field. And similarly, like in some grids, it may not be like the amount may not be sufficient also. So in this way, like we are putting the fertilizer in a, like the precise fertilizer at the precise location, like right amount at the right time and right location. So this is like see like this is the like the ML model. Like basically we use the SG boost, gradient boost, and random forest and a sphere model for like generating the soil nutrient maps. So among the models, like we found uh, that the gradient boost more like gradient boost and random forest is giving better results. Actually, now since we are in the preliminary stage of like because our data sets is still limited, so maybe like once we have more amount of data set, we collect from multiple fields because now we have 2 seasons data. Maybe like since the project is continuing, so maybe with more seasons and more data, maybe this prediction skill may further improve because we still have like some issues like in zinc and sulfur. Some of these nutrients we still have issue. Our correlation is not very good or like maybe error is high. So why these machine learning models are important? Because see, suppose the proximal sensing technique is promising, but it is not self-sufficient because it is an indirect method. It is based on gamma ray spectroscopy, and it is supposed to have errors, different type of errors. And when it comes to laboratory analysis, it is expensive, it is manpower intensive, and time consuming. So the machine learning models are the solutions like which combine the best aspect of these two things and make a like a general model so that it reduce the errors with the proximal sensing and it is and the expensive part of this laboratory analysis also taken care. So this is the way like so once the variable rate maps are generated, like so we integrate with the onboard UAV drone these maps and we do a fertilizer application. What do you see in the left side is the fertilizer applicator, how it is integrated with the drone and it is sprayed across the field. The right side is suppose how we can apply pesticide. So that I will be discussing further when it comes to where the crop stress detection or like crop disease prediction. So this is the variable rate sprayer on board drone. So I'm not discussing the details because that is not part of this seminar. Images because each of this camera like this it has its own like plus minus its own speciality. For example, we have a multispectral camera, so it is basically there are 6 bands. So these bands are like very self like very critical for crop monitoring, blue, green, red, RGB, and red edge, and NIR, and then long wave infrared. Then you have a so basically a thermal band. Then you have the hyperspectral camera. So there the spectral range varies from 400 to 1000 nanometer. So and we have like we have around 281 channels. So here the advantage is that we have a like a large spectrum of channels. So though it is like the data volume is very high, we need to handle a huge amount of data, but it is very useful to identify which spectral signature is very sensitive to a particular like a crop disease or a like crop stress or something. So if we can find that spectral signature, so like it is very useful to make a predictive model or like some kind of like based on the aerial imaging. So we can directly use that particular spectral band for identifying that particular diseases. Then we have the lidar sensor, like so that gives a vertical like 3D image of the crop. So it is very helpful in identifying like estimating crop height, crop biomass, and all those things. So this is how like your like hyperspectral and multispectral data differ. In your multispectral data, so you have bands which are very specific. Suppose for example, like as I showed, 6 bands, but it is not continuous. But in case of hyperspectral imaging, so you have the hyperspectral cube or like bands data. Maybe like in our case, it is 289 bands data is there. So that you have a continuous spectrum, you will get it. So like it is, so like once you analyze the data in response to different crop features, so we can find that which spectral band, which wavelength is very much sensitive to a particular crop feature. So, so this actually before using this camera on board UAV, so like our CSR lab NIN, they does lot of customization for like getting the image stability, image quality, and image accuracy. So there is a lot of testing before taking the data like in the real field. So one major application of this data collected is finding like deriving phenology, crop phenology. So crop phenology is basically that the different stages of the crop we are estimating from these the images, aerial images we collect. So what I showed in this these dots in this field is like because once we for developing a technology or like suppose I am deriving a phenology from aerial images, so I need a ground truth to verify this whatever the phenology I derived from satellite and UAV data. So we do field campaign and we go and collect data at regular grid points so that we can verify the, the phenology derived from satellite as well as UAV against the in-situ data we collected. So this is how like so when we collect the UAV image, so there is a like a data curation process where the raw images first you need to who are working on this UAV image will be knowing that. So you need to first make an orthomosaic image by stitching all these raw images. So in that process, you may have to remove the like the noises which is associated, like there may be noises. So you may have to be very careful when while removing the noise part in the data. So once the or from the orthomosaic image, basically the reflectance data from the different spectral bands. So like we'll be deriving different type of indices. So these indices are like very helpful for like knowing the crop health. For example, in general, a high value of NDVI is an indication of uh, like crop is healthy. Similarly, like there are like other indices which use other like spectral like wavelengths other than NAR and red, like so GNDVA uses the green band also. Similarly, there is a combined index like EVI, so that is also used for identifying the crop whether like crop is in a healthy situation or like any crop have any stress. So we have now, based on the reflectance like UAV and satellite, so we have derived the crop phenology, basically the indices. We have derived NDVI and LEVI. So whatever the figure I am showing, it is example from the Kottayam field. So this is like I was telling in the beginning. So why we need to go for a UAV imaging or a drone imaging when you have something like Sentinel? We have satellite, something like Sentinel, which gives 10-meter resolution data set. So I think this figure is an explanation to why we are going for that. So though the resolution is 10-meter, so our validation, or like when we have checked with the ground truth, for example, like NDVA, you can see that the observed NDVA, which I am putting as the digits, the values mentioned are like ground truth, which is the NDVA measured based on the instrument, field instrument. So mostly it is above like points around zero point 0.7 and above, because it was during a vegetative phase of the crop. But you can see that our UAV values are also like high, like it is in the range like zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.9, and having a good agreement, slightly, though it is slightly above, but it's having a good agreement with the observed NDVA. But we can see that the NDVA, which is derived from the Sentinel data, is mostly the values are in the range of like zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.3. So that is the problem. Like, so we believe that the satellite data is very useful in crop monitoring. So in reality, actually, it is not. So it is not the story of a single field. So we have done this for the many field. So similar is the story for LAE also, leaf area index also. That is another indices very critical for crop monitoring and management. There also we can see that observed LA is in the range of like uh, plus or minus 4, like in the range of 4 to 6. And our UAV LA is also in the similar range, but you can see that the LA derived from Sentinel is much lower. So that shows the limitation of satellite data when we use for like crop monitoring and management. So this is the story. Like same story is there for like we have checked for different paddy farmer paddy fields across different state. So this the first one figure I showed is for the paddy fields in Kottayam Kuttanad region. So this is the paddy field in Nagarkoil Tamil Nadu region. So I think the story is similar. So this again shows that what is the limitation from the using satellite data for like crop monitoring. So this is for the hospital side. So here also like the story is more or less similar. This is for a site in Jammu and Kashmir. So here also like I think irrespective of the region, the indices derived from satellite is much lower. Basically, it has a serious underestimation of the indices. The estimated value is much lower compared to the observed value. So this shows like why, for particularly for like in our kind of farming, where we need decision at a very higher finer scale. So we need something kind of a UAV kind of an imaging for like crop monitoring. So till now, what I showed is the spatial comparison for different region. So this is the average statistics. So this is the distribution of NDVI from like what showed in the left is ground NDVI, how the values are distributed. Like this is the number of pixels basically in falling in different category of NDVI. So the middle one is the UAV and the last one is the satellite. So as we have seen, actually it is a composite image for all the field. As we have seen, similar to that spatial validation or comparison, we can see that the Sentinel, like the UAV is like the distribution is very closely following the observation. So it is, though it is slightly higher, but the Sentinel is much lower than, and the distribution doesn't follow a similar distribution as ground truth. So we have done a temporal for a seasonal comparison also. We have carried out. So here these graphs have like different, like even we compared with the modis data, and even we compared with the crop model simulation also. So we have seen that you see here whatever the circle shows the observed indices computed, and the triangle shows the UAV derived. So we can see that during different stages of the crop, the UAV derived indices is very well close to the observed indices. The modus data is far below. Like it shows that the limitation of modus data when it comes to higher high resolution application. Sentinel is slightly better compared to Modis, but still much lower. The model simulations are is picking the higher values of indices, but you can see that there is a phase change. Like the the peak is not like the is not peaked at the right time. That means basically there is a lag in these model simulations, because the vegetative state it start from the in the model, the vegetation stage starts much earlier than compared to the actual observed vegetative state. Based on this data set, so we develop, like we use deep learning models as well as machine learning model. Like so, we use the different models to predict LA. So because we have the ground truth, then you have the UAV derived indices, then use this the you have the training samples which collected from the ground to train the model, like for the UAV and ground truth. So and then so keep 20% of the data for a validation or as a test data set. We have used four variants of LSTM and LSTNet model and gated recurrent and temporal convolution network. These are like state of the art deep learning time series prediction models. So in addition to that, we have compared with a traditional SVM model, machine learning model. So what I show in the right side is the total number of simulation, because these models have a lot of like hyperparameters. So we don't know, like for each application we need to tune the model for a specific to identify the which is the most optimal hyperparameter, whether it in terms of like the number of nodes, whether number of what is the value of dropout I should put in the model, or like what is the which optimizer I should select for the model, or like which activation function I should use for the model, like what is the right epoch I should use for the, and similar for the batch size. So as a combination of all these hyperparameters, so for each model the number of simulation comes around 1.12 lakhs. Since we in the LSTMs, because we have used four variants, the total number of simulations is 4.48. So this shows the how it's a real computational problem. So here in this figure, like we have done a cross validation to find the best, like least error model. So once we find the model, like model combination which is of least error, so that is used for the final prediction. So the final validation statistics shows that the among the models, bidirectional LSTM performs like relatively like better compared to other models, whether it is in terms of RMSE or like mean absolute percentile error. So the predicted LI from bidirectional LSTM was closer to the observation. So similarly, like we have used the machine learning model for predicting the chlorophyll, because chlorophyll is an important parameter which indicates the plant health and the crop's ability to do photosynthesis efficiently, and it is a indirect like indicator for the leaf nitrogen, and so that that intent can help in like to do the fertilizer management. And so for the chlorophyll, so what we use a instrument like SPAT for doing the in situ measurements. Then we derive the chlorophyll from the UAV. Then we use machine or deep learning models using these two data set to develop a prediction model. So because since our data set was though like in thousands, 2000s, because for this kind of models we need the more the number of data set generally the accuracy is expected to be higher. So we use the data augmentation method. We started using from the random noise initiation like the simplest method to the Gaussian mixture like model, the complex method. So like we found that the data augmentation can play an important role like for improving the accuracy of this prediction model. So we used different machine learning models. So among so we use this model for like without data augmentation and data augmentation. So we found that with the data augmentation, so we could arrive see the predicted chlorophyll have a correlation with the observed measured chlorophyll at 0.86. So we are still like collecting the data, maybe with more amount of data set, maybe the this correlation may even further improve. So among the model, the gradient boosting algorithm, we found that that is performing best. Of this work is under review. So the another aspect of like use of this whatever the images we collect is for generating the crop sorry like developing model for identifying the crop stress, because crop stress is very important because generally for farmer they use pesticide at a regular time interval as a regular dose uniformly across the field. So now this kind of methodology, like modeling techniques, this allow us to develop a crop stress map which is spatially varied. That means like a farmer can apply fertilizer where the crop stress is high. So this is a methodology. So we collect UAV images in the crop field, and similarly that simultaneous satellite sentinel data also simultaneously processed. We compute different vegetation indices which are indicative of crop health. So then we two approach we have used. One is weighted average, like ensemble weighted average, and a normal average. So based on these two methods, we have develop like assign different brights and generated stress map. So that stress map will clearly tell what are the pixels where stress is very high. So this is an example like how we generated the stress map. So this stress map can be used for doing the pesticide application in the crop field. So wherever the stress is very high, so like like farmer or like when you do a pesticide, they can target those areas for fertilizer, sorry, pesticide application. But here maybe because of the resolution or like whatever be, because the sentinel data, the derived indices was not having much spatial variability. That's why when we generated map also, we couldn't see much spatial variability. So this again shows the limitation of satellite data in this kind of application. But the two method, ensemble and the normal average methods, both the methods looks promising for so the here these maps we generated of like 3 square meter, like 3.5 square meter grid. So this can be used for like even these maps can be more like integrated with the UAV for pesticide application in crops. So these are similarly like we have extended this work for other crops also, for like nitrogen phenol index, LA, and chlorophyll, that many other parameter estimation in different sites of the project field. So we found that the this DAV data is very much promising in doing the prediction of various phenological parameter. And we, in addition to that, we have used the hyperspectral data set also. So that work is ongoing. So we are still processing the data set to identify the spectral bands, which is more sensitive to different type of crop stress. Similarly, like LIDAR data is used for estimating the crop biomass and plant height. So our like initial analysis shows that whatever that crop height estimation from LIDAR data is agreeing with the field observation, whatever the manual field like crop height estimation we conducted during our field trial. This work is still going on. Similarly, see this till now, what I discussed is based on that the images we have collected. In addition to that, we are doing like we are applying the machine learning techniques for the large scale data analysis also. Like so, all in the like the district wise, all India district wise crop yield, yearly crop yield is collected for a period of like 70 years. Actually, like historical data is collected for a period of 70 years, starting from 1960 to 2022 something, 22 I think. Yeah. So then like we use a like unsupervised method to cluster this different district into in based on the crop yield variability, because this analysis is very helpful when we because we know that in crop yield or crop productivity the yield or price varies significantly with the variety and region. So it is important to know that the regions of a similar variability, similar type of yield, so that will be helping us in identifying the clusters of similar variability, and we can decide or like design management practice according for like each clusters. So we can see that these clusters are very randomly distributed. Now we are doing a couple of analysis. That's another technique. So we are doing that for studying the behavior of each clusters, so that we can even further refine these clusters. So once the data is clustered, we use a type of a prediction model for each clusters, where that this production, like the yield is predicted based on the different weather, like weather or environmental parameters like temperature, maximum and minimum temperature, rainfall, humidity.
Hello,
The
Rakesh.
hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have the time. 45 minutes has gone.
So I will move a little fast. So we found that these models are very promising. Like basically, like in like
Okay, so you
when
can take 5 more minutes and
okay, okay, yeah. So we found that the like among the models, the LSTM perform relatively better compared to the machine learning models in the long time yield prediction. So the another aspect of this project, like where the deep learning or like machine learning have a pivotal role to play, was the predictive image analytics. So so what we did is that here, so it's a work is ongoing. So we use different type of like images, RGB, multispectral and hyperspectral data set to train our predictive analytics algorithm. So the main or like foremost challenge here is making a training data set for this training this model. So we did an extensive field data collection of like disease scoring data like across the field. So that work is ongoing. So once the data is collected, so then the the pixel we like we in here like we cut around 3 meters square, which corresponds to 768 into 768 pixel, because our UAV resolution was 4.1 millimeter. So we create tiles like this, and then for using our field data or like observed data, we label this thing as diseased and non-diseased image. Then we use this data source for training our algorithm. Actually, even in addition to the manual training, we use different like auto encoders algorithms also for labeling the data set. So right now we have collected RGB or like around 3000 images. For like multispectral, it is around 2500. Then the photos we collected around 2000 images. So before like testing the model with our own data set we created, we have used the like pre-trained model which is openly available based on an imagenet data set. So first we like this is available in public also. So this we used as a base reference to identify the best model among the current architecture. So for like then we have done the hyperparameter tuning on these shortlisted models. So we have shortlisted bait because we deliberately said bait because it was a lightweight model. Then Levit we included because it was a lightweight model. Then we used the Convenist, which is a hybrid model. Then Regnetex, then OptionNet version 2, and a RusNet. We used the 200 version. Uh, so 224 version. So this we have tested with the openly available Party Doctor dataset. So we found that with like even before tuning, our accuracy was 95. So now with fine tuning, we could increase the accuracy for many classes to above 77. Though we have like some issue with the some disease classes, but that is basically we found that the number of disease that data sample the labeled image in that particular disease was relatively less in the Doctor data set. So this is the overall methodology. So we have the data curation, then you identify the proper model through hyperparameter, train and validate the model, then you generate a disease map for pesticide application. So actually, this most of these machine learning models, the main problem is that, or like major challenge is that it's quite difficult to know like how the model perform different model how it performs differently, like because we exactly don't know what feature in the crop or like in the image model looks to make the prediction. So we used the state of that like explainability algorithm. So for example, I used the sharply adaptive technique like algorithm for that the mate model to see how the bait model made a prediction whether it is looking at the right feature to make the prediction. So here you can see that the actual image is shown in the left. So we can see that the disease or the stress is there in the leaf, and the model is giving maximum weightage to that area. So that indicates that so model is looking at the correct like the where the stress is there in the image or like the stress feature is visible in the image. So this gives a confidence on our like prediction like okay the model is not making a random prediction of a fluke success. It is really looking at the feature and making the prediction. This we have checked for different type of diseases. And similarly, the other algorithms also we have used Lime and Gradka for different type of models. So similar to the sharp, the lime explainability check with the lime also shows that the model is looking at the diseased feature like the stressed feature in the image to make the prediction. And GradCam also it is more or less similar. Like we can see that the high intent like the model is giving maximum weightage to the regions of like the stress. So this shows that machine and deep learning techniques are promising tool for crop monitoring and management when it comes to high resolution field application in the country. So this is my last slide, Adway. So I stop here. Adway?
Thank you so much. There is one online question which I will read first. Uh, would the low NDVI LAI values in the Sentinel-2 should be bias corrected with the UAV or in pseudo for the phenology calculation? Okay.
Yeah, actually it can be done provided if it is systematic, but that can be done. But
Okay.
actually, for doing that, first that's why we are trying to first getting a conference on the UAV. Once that UAV model is developed based on the UAV, the same like that model, then we can further use the UAV data for bias correcting the sentinel. Definitely it can be done.
Okay. And the continuing the with the distribution as shown in the plot, Sentinel NDVI is a way off from the ground truth. At this stage, does it serve any purpose or is it useless?
Yeah, see, actually, Sentinel, though our analysis, because we are doing a validation at a very finer scale, because our field is like 1 acre, 2 acre, kind of maybe like maximum 5 acre. So we can see that it's very high resolution. So this generally the satellite products generally they do a lot of fine tuning or maybe kind of like they do a lot of climatology tuning kind of thing maybe. So though it is saying 10-meter resolution, I am I'm not sure the from the special variability what we observed while deriving the indices, we couldn't find that kind of a spatial variability. Though it is the product is of 10-meter resolution. Actually, we need to seriously look into that because see, then question comes like whether it is really usable. Like maybe a kind of a bias correction we can use that because uh, the UAV imaging one way it is though it is becoming very popular. Yeah, and now the cost involved also coming down. So maybe in the future it may be much popular because, but when it comes to larger area, like for example crop mapping application, it may be still useful.
Okay. Okay. So, do we have any question? Yeah. Mike is not there.
Very good afternoon, sir. This is Rahul Kashyap from IIT Kharagpur. Thanks for the insightful talk. I have a couple of questions.
Yeah,
First
please.
being why there is substantial like differences between say Modis and Sentinel versus your UAV or ground-based measurements. Like patterns could be same, but the like magnitudes can vary. But there is substantial difference both in the pattern and the magnitudes.
Yeah, when it comes to first the modis problem can be because the resolution, because I don't recommend modis for this kind of application when it is like farm level application. For example, you are giving an advisory to a farmer who is having 2 to 3 acres of land. I don't advise modis because modis have limitation because we have checked in our own analysis. We have seen that in our 1 or 2 sites, the whole site we are getting 1 or 2 point. Like some fields it is 1 point, another some other field it is 2 point, modis point, and values are similar. Even the across that region, we cross checked it. The modis is giving a uniform value. So then coming to the sentinel, as I answered earlier to the previous question, there are biases. Yeah, I've seen a lot of papers which use several data for phenology detection and all. But I don't know, like then some serious cross validation because actually the challenge is that many times this validating this data set at final resolution in the farm field is very difficult because the observed truth is not available. Because this kind of actually the project, this kind of project are actually aimed for that because there is a general perception that you can now central is available at a very high resolution. So why don't we generate like a phenology map across the country or like for a larger region, and why don't we make a advisory based on that and provide to the farmer? So we have to be careful. So this shows that we need to be little bit careful. So we may have to do a bias correction or a kind of like further calibration before using those kind of data set. So UAV can be a like tool for like doing that bias correction. It can be a base because in the larger area, doing the ground truthing is difficult. So once you calibrate the UAV, then use that UAV for like bias correct the sentinel or satellite. That may be a good approach.
Thank you, sir. My second question being that which like remote sensing based metric or index can be like most appropriate for monitoring crop stress?
Yeah, again, like see, that's why like we didn't depend on this. Actually, when literature says that is even accepted across the people working in the field. See, actually, not a single indice or like a single things doesn't explain all the, because for different crop feature or like crop aspect, we need to look at the different indices. And so that's why in our approach we have used the like most popular indices. We use the combined or like a um, ensemble approach we have used instead of a single indices. Because when it comes to prediction, actually we did some study, particularly for like LA estimation data. We have used different indices as a univariate problem. There we could find that the rendezvous indices was coming, the prediction based on the rendezvous indices was coming closer to the observation. But again, that was for a particular case. So making a general statement, you need to do like a different crops or different region. We need to do that.
Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, so we'll thanks again to the speaker, V. Ramesh. Thank you very much. And with this talk, the session is over. Now we will go for lunch.